Hi guys, welcome back to Exmolex. First of all, if you hear like swooshing noises in the background, it's crazy windy outside and I think it's gonna be like that all day, so we're just gonna have to deal with a little bit of swooshing sounds. I'm really curious if you're gonna be able to hear it or not, because from where I'm sitting it seems really loud, but I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up, so let me know. This past week on Instagram, I asked my followers to share their most unpopular Mormon/ex-Mormon related opinions. By the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me over there if you have an Instagram, because that's where I ask a lot of questions that I end up using the answers for content. So if you want to like participate in the creation of a video, follow me over there. I told you guys to go ahead and make it controversial, so let's see what you came up with and I'll see if I agree or disagree. Released early for time served should be an acceptable term for ex-members. I agree with that. I don't think that that's an unpopular opinion. That sounds like totally reasonable to me. The organization and return on investment of the church's business model should be a Harvard class. You know what? The church is so rich and has done such a great job of becoming rich that I totally see your point with that. It does seem a little bit dangerous to take the business model of a cult and put it into a college course. But I see where you're going with it for sure. The Mormon church is a cult, and yes, so is Catholicism and many other religions. You know, I don't know a ton about Catholicism. 100% agree that Mormonism is a cult. Maybe I should do a little bit more research on Catholicism and compare it to the Bite model and other resources and see if I personally think it's a cult and then make a video about it. Let me know. I still keep the Sabbath day holy. It's nice to have a rest day. You know what? I don't totally disagree with that. I think it kind of depends on how your family defined keeping the Sabbath day holy. For my family, it was like no shopping on Sundays, no going to restaurants on Sundays, basically no spending money on Sundays. We also weren't allowed to go swimming, and my parents didn't like letting me go horseback riding. We also couldn't like hang out with friends. We could hang out with family, but not friends. In my family, we were allowed to watch TV and play video games on Sundays, but I grew up around a lot of other people who were not allowed to do those things. So if your definition of keeping the Sabbath day holy is like a strict Mormon sort of version of it, I completely disagree with that. But if it's more of like a, we're just gonna relax at home in our lazy clothes on the couch, agree. The new garment style is just a ploy to get people to stay, and it will work. I agree with that. The more I see about it, and I'll put like a picture of it up if you guys haven't seen this, but the church is supposedly rolling out these new garment styles where your shoulders can be showing, which feels extremely unfair as somebody who went through the church's modesty standard bullcrap when they were a teenager and it messed with their perception of women's bodies. I hate that they're suddenly just like, actually shoulders are fine. And I agree. I think it is because we're seeing a shift in society away from purity culture. A lot of these younger Mormons that are starting to reach adulthood are choosing not to wear garments because they want to be able to wear more styles of clothing, and they're not concerned about showing off their shoulders a little bit. And the church is desperately trying to cling on to membership and keep up with the times, so they're just changing the garment. Some Exmos recognize that Mormonism is bad and rightfully leave, but don't deconstruct, so they bring the bad with them and just do it in different ways, often a new puritanicalism. I agree, I've seen that happen. I've also seen Exmos leave the church but not deconstruct and end up being like raging misogynists. I feel like people shouldn't leave the church and just remain stagnant. Like, you can continue learning, you can continue growing, you can continue changing and bettering yourself after leaving the church. And if you don't, sometimes it can lead you down a less than ideal path. Being a progmo is more unethical than being an unaware Mormon because they recognize all of the awful things but find ways to accept it or excuse it. I think that that one is going to be at least somewhat of an unpopular opinion because there are progmos that follow me. So if you're one of them, let me know what you think of that. For me personally, I tend to agree. This is my personal take on it. When I started learning stuff about the church, I didn't want to be a fence sitter, and so I did a deep dive and I spent months doing research on it. As soon as I had more information, I left the church. I was done. And I feel like seeing all of the issues that the church has, seeing the way that the church has treated specific groups of people, seeing things that prophets have said and done, seeing the way that the church is led, and choosing to stay anyway, I think usually comes from a desire to either one, try to change the church from the inside, or two, they accept that nobody is perfect, including prophets. So the church, like the gospel is perfect, but the church isn't and the people aren't. And they still believe that the church is true and that it's Christ's true church. And so they justify staying because it's true with problems, I guess. I don't think that people who are in that position feel like they're doing something wrong or unethical, like obviously, or they wouldn't be doing it. But I do agree with this person on some level that if something is wrong, it's wrong, and it'd be better to take a step back from it than continue to be a part of it for whatever reason. The song Follow the Prophet is a really good song, minus the lyrics. I don't know about that. I don't know if I can see past the lyrics. You let me know what you guys think. Religion is just a way to cope with death, too afraid to consider there is nothing after. I do agree with that. I, as somebody, you know, who left the church and then has lost people since then and contemplated death and religion and afterlife sort of things a lot, I still, even though I would consider myself an atheist, I like to think that there's something else. I like to think that there is something beyond death, because I hate to accept the fact that these people that I love are just gone forever. And that, you know, there's so many people that are born that know nothing but suffering in their lives and then they die. And that's so hard for me to accept that that's the only existence that they could have. When I've contemplated that a lot, or like when I'm thinking about loved ones that I've lost, I completely understand why people would cling to a belief in religion simply for that hope of being with their loved ones again. So I get it. I get it. You can't be inclusive and progressive and a true Mormon. I'm sorry. I do agree with that. I think there's a lot of buffet style Mormons that just sort of pick apart parts of the gospel that they like and be like, oh, that prophet, he was just a man. His stuff doesn't matter. Only like the base part of like Christ in the gospel matters. And that's like what I believe in. There are a lot of people like that. Genuinely, like there are a lot of Mormons who consider themselves to be Mormon, but like they only believe like pieces of Mormonism, that are good people. But I think that if you take all of Mormonism and you take all of the things that prophets have taught and things that are part of the gospel and part of the doctrine, you take all of that stuff, I don't think that you can be progressive and inclusive as a Mormon. South Park, All About Mormons, opened my eyes and did my own research about the church. I think that that's a pretty common experience. I didn't see it until after I left the church, but I was shocked by how accurate it was and how I didn't know half of that stuff when I was a member. And there were people, you know, who obviously were not Mormon who watched that and were just going around with more knowledge of Mormon history than I had as a Mormon. It's very frustrating. 95% of all LDS members don't follow the word of wisdom. My brother said that. And I think that where he's coming from is like Mormons don't generally only eat meat in times of famine, which is in the word of wisdom. There's also stuff in there about like eating healthy and things. So like if that's what we're going off of, I totally agree. If we're going off of the base word of wisdom thing that's like no coffee, tea, alcohol, or like smoking and drugs, I think most Mormons probably follow that. But even then, there are a lot of younger Mormons these days that do drink tea and coffee. So I don't know. I might tend to agree with you on that one. Don't stop at deconstructing Mormonism. There's more you're wrong about. 100% agree. And we talked about that a little bit earlier with like, if you are stagnant and you leave Mormonism and you just don't continue to learn, like that can be really negative for your character. But like, yes, there is so much more. And I think that it's important, like as a person, to just never stop learning. Like you never know it all. You don't ever have all of the information. It's important to just keep going, keep learning more, keep asking questions, keep questioning yourself. Let me know which of these things that you agreed with or disagreed with. Which one did you think was the most unpopular opinion? Thank you guys so much for watching. Special thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all so very much. Extra special thank you to Doug Davis for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon. If you guys would like to support the channel, there are links to do so in the description below. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!